On August 17, 2025, Israel came to a halt. The country, usually bustling with life and energy, suddenly fell silent as an extraordinary event unfolded. A nationwide strike swept the country as hundreds of thousands demanded an end to the war in Gaza and the return of the remaining hostages. The air was thick with urgency and hope as people from all walks of life poured into the streets, united by a common cause. The scale was unprecedented. Nearly 500,000 filled Tel Aviv's streets, joined by cities across the nation. From Haifa to Beersheba, the movement spread rapidly, echoing through every corner of Israel. Schools, businesses, and public transport shut down, signaling a society united in frustration and grief. The usual rhythms of daily life were replaced by a powerful sense of collective purpose. The strike, led by hostage families, marked a turning point. What began as a family-led campaign became a massive, society-wide movement. Their pain and determination inspired thousands more to join. Major unions, universities, and cultural institutions joined, reflecting a growing consensus that the government's strategy had failed. The movement crossed generational and political lines, drawing support from unexpected places. Empty highways and shuttered storefronts became symbols of national pain and impatience. The silence of the city spoke louder than words, capturing the mood of a nation at a crossroads. Protesters argued the ongoing war endangered both Gaza's civilians and the hostages it was meant to save. Their chants and banners called for compassion, justice, and immediate action. Their message, the government's pursuit of total victory, was coming at too high a cost. For many, this day marked the moment when the people's voice could no longer be ignored. The August 17th protests drew strength from an extraordinary alliance. Hostage families, bereaved relatives, and major unions stood side by side, joined by lawyers, doctors, business leaders, and academics. The Hebrew University and leading cultural figures, including Gal Gadot, amplified the call for change. This coalition crossed generations and backgrounds, uniting grassroots activists, professionals, and celebrities. Their shared belief, nearly 2 years of war had failed to bring the hostages home. Opposition leader Yair Lapid and even former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant echoed the demand: return the hostages, no matter the political cost. The government could no longer dismiss the movement as fringe. It had become the conscience of the nation. The protests were bold and disruptive, erupting with a sense of urgency that swept through the country. People from all walks of life poured into the streets, united by a shared sense of frustration and hope for change. Demonstrators organized marches and rallies designed to force the nation's attention, refusing to be ignored by leaders or the public. At the heart of the movement, protesters blocked the main highway between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, bringing traffic to a standstill and making headlines around the world. In Hostage Square, a massive Israeli flag bore the faces of those still held in Gaza, a haunting reminder of what was at stake and a powerful symbol of the pain felt by families across the nation. Chants like, "We don't win a war over the bodies of hostages," echoed through the crowds, amplifying the emotional intensity and urgency of the demonstrations. Police responded with force, using water cannons and making dozens of arrests. Despite the risks, protesters stood their ground, believing the cause was worth any sacrifice. Rallies erupted nationwide, from the northernmost towns to the southern cities, showing the movement's reach and the depth of public anger. The call for a hostage deal and an end to the war was no longer limited to Tel Aviv's elite. It had become a national demand, voiced by families, students, and citizens from every corner of Israel. The protesters' central demand was clear: bring the hostages home, now. The urgency in their voices echoed through the streets, a collective cry for immediate action. After 681 days, families' fear and desperation had reached a breaking point. The weight of uncertainty had become unbearable and their patience had worn thin. Of the roughly 50 hostages, only about 20 are believed to be alive, a grim race against time. Each passing day felt like a countdown, intensifying the urgency. Former captives and relatives spoke out, insisting that military pressure only increases the danger. Their voices were filled with a mix of hope and fear. The Hostages and Missing Families Forum vowed to shut down the country until the government acted. Their resolve was unshakable, their mission clear. For families, every day of war is another day their loved ones are at risk. The emotional toll was visible on their faces, a constant reminder of the stakes. Faith in the government's strategy has collapsed. A negotiated deal is now seen as the only hope. The call for diplomacy grew louder with each passing moment. The demand is no longer a plea, it's an ultimatum. Prioritize human life over military objectives. The message was clear. The time for action is now. The protests exposed deep divisions within Israel's leadership. Hardline ministers condemned the strike, claiming it weakened Israel and emboldened Hamas. Others, like Benny Gantz, sided with the protesters, accusing the government of ignoring the hostages' families. The war in Gaza rages on, with new offensives planned even as the humanitarian crisis deepens. Protesters argue the suffering on both sides can no longer be justified. The strike was a turning point, forcing a national reckoning and challenging the government's narrative. By bringing Israel to a standstill, the people demanded a new path. The fate of the hostages, the war's future, and the government's stability now hang in the balance.